Ladies and gentlemen, we do thank you very much for your attention, and now we invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Welcome to our top travel destinations. I am your host, Kevin Flanagan. I have been editor of the weekly travel news column in the Sunday Independent and the Fine Wine and Food Guide, and I am here to use my decades of experience to help you know exactly where to stay, eat, drink, shop and explore when visiting the world's top travel destinations. So sit back and enjoy the wonders of travel as we take off on our magical journey together. Welcome to this week's Top Travel Destinations. I'm here with a very old friend, a very special friend. My guest this week is Debbie O'Donnell. I knew Debbie O'Donnell when she was a groundbreaking Amazonian woman. She started Island FM and she started the big success Xpose, which was on Virgin Media. I think she worked for Virgin Media for 20 years, and now she has Seahorse Productions, and she's creating a storm of publicity and content that's absolutely fabulous. And she's going to talk about somewhere very dear to her heart as her top destination today, which is Hermanus in South Africa. Debbie, you are very welcome.
Kevin, thanks so much. I don't think I can live up to that intro, but thank you. It was lovely.
Well, you've no choice now anyway. So tell me, why have you picked this South African destination? And maybe describe what you most love about it and exactly where it is.
Well, Hermanus is very close to my heart. I first went to South Africa when I worked with Ireland AM, right? So I kind of got the first taste of how much I loved it in 2006. Then about 15 years ago, I met my other half who's South African. So I've spent a lot of time over there and over the last few years with our kids. So each time we go, the holiday changes. It changes from two single people to young kids to adults, kids to on our own again, you know. I went to Hermanus for the first time, I'd say about 15 years ago. It was quite different then than it is now. The rand is very weak. The euro to the rand is like, what, 1 to 20 at the moment. So it's quite a good time for Irish people to go over. I would consider it a kind of a posh Kinsale. It's very handy for Irish travelers because you fly into Cape Town, and from Cape Town, it's 50 minutes transfer to Hermanus. So that's nothing. And it's about a €30 taxi ride, which is nothing. Now, the first time I went with Johnny, we traveled on Stephen's Day, which was horrific. I'd never advise anyone to travel on Stephen's Day. The first leg was through Amsterdam, and literally Aer Lingus must have just tossed all the luggage on the plane. So we'd no luggage for about a week of the holiday, which meant that when we got to Hermanus, we had to buy everything new. Luckily in Hermanus, it's a beautiful little seaside town. It's just so picturesque and gorgeous. But there is a Mr. Price there if you lose all your luggage. So we were able to go in and pick up all our gear for literally nothing, you know. But it is beautiful and it's very rugged.
Well, tell us a little bit about your children and how Irish or how South African are they?
Okay, so I have two boys. I have one boy who's Marcus and he is 16. And my other boy is nearly 11 and he's Sam. So they're very much 50-50 Irish South African. When they were young, they used to have a pseudo Irish South African, kind of a weird accent. But now they just take the mickey out of my husband's accent because it's actually a really difficult accent to imitate. But my eldest fellow Marcus has it nailed now at this point. They look South African with an Irish accent. You know, they're very dark skinned and they're fair hair. But when we travel with them, and I think this is a good thing to note actually for Irish travelers going over to South Africa, that when you travel with kids, especially under 16, you have to bring their birth certs. So this
Wow.
is kind of a new thing. And if you don't bring their birth certs, you won't get into the country.
That's a brilliant piece of information to know. Describe what you can expect. Give us a sort of a virtual tour of Hermanus. I've been to Hermanus. It is eye-droppingly beautiful. Give us a description for any of our listeners who may not have been there. What can you expect? What's it like? What do you
Um,
do?
So when you drive into the town, you get this most beautiful little picturesque, as I said, town, loads of bars overlooking the seafront. loads of cliffs, and that's really important that when you go in, that there's bars and restaurants overlooking the seafront, because in September every year, the whales come into Hermanus to have their babies. So you want a prime spot having your lobster when you're sitting watching all the whales and their babies coming in. It's kind of like Kinsale on steroids, ultimately. The bars are on the seafront, but the shops are on the other side. So you go through Hermanus and then you just see mountain everywhere.
Wow.
At the end of the town, there's the Marine Hotel. The Marine Hotel is kind of the honeymoon hotel. It's the five-star hotel where people go. It's very near the golf course. It's magnificent. Now, it's not cheap. You can't get a booking in January and February. I just checked there. Not that I'm going or anything, but I just checked. Can't get a booking January and February. The first booking is March and it's about 750 for 2 nights. So Irish standards is okay, but it's a good honeymoon destination. That's in the middle of the town. So that's good. Underneath the hotel as well, they have a swimming pool, but something that's really, really important about Hermanus is its tidal pools. So it's got these magnificent big tidal pools that you can just go and you can bring your towel and your picnic and sit down on for the whole day. And you can just go swimming there. Then you get to the end of the town and you get into a slightly more residential area. You take a right and you go down to a place called Grotto Beach and Forklift Beach. So Forklift Beach is where all the surfers go, which is very cool. But one thing I would say about Hermanus is it's very rugged. It's not like it's like white sand, like the Caribbean. It's very like Ireland. And I think that's why I feel at home there, the kind of ruggedness of the beaches. So if you were planning to start surfing, I don't think it's the place to start because it's where the sharks come in and the seals come in and it's fabulous to watch if they're experienced. My husband's a big surfer, so he tries to bring the boys out and I'm a nervous wreck until they come back.
What would you recommend as regards where to eat and what to eat?
First of all, I would recommend there's a gorgeous place where the locals go. You go through the town in Hermanus and you keep going along the beach road and you come to a place called Dutchie's. So Dutchie's is a gorgeous sea restaurant slash bar just on the beach. It's quite Mediterranean, but a lot of fish and a lot of barbecue. So when you're in Hermanus, you'd expect to eat a lot of octopus, a lot of crayfish. Everything has got to do with crayfish and mussels and stuff like that. Now, what I would recommend is they have a fantastic farmers market on a Saturday. It's kind of just off the town. It starts at about 2 and it goes on till about 8 o'clock. When you go in, it's like a feast for your eyes. There's amazing tropical fruit. The flowers just struck me, the smell, and they were all tropical. It's just beautiful. And you kind of get a flavor of exactly what the local people are eating.
And your favorite food, if you weren't familiar with South African cuisine, your favorite dishes that you would recommend for listeners would be what?
I would say you'd have to go as lobster, or as they say, crayfish when you're there. You have to, because it's just so fresh and fabulous. When I'm there, Johnny's uncle, the last time, came up with a whole pile of lobsters and put them in the pot and cooked them. And fresh lobster is like nothing else, Kevin. So sea fish and mussels, but also the fruit. They've every type of fruit there. Yeah, fruit and lobster. It comes out your ears by the time you come back.
There are some really lovely local dishes that I think are very well worth trying.
Absolutely. Actually, one thing that we've done regularly, Kevin, is we've gone to just like maybe 10 minutes outside of Hermanus. There's a place called Stanford Estate. You go down there and it's massive. Cheese and wine, obviously, are huge in Cape Town and Hermanus in particular. Their cheese is just phenomenal. So you go down, it's about 10 minutes by car, and you can buy picnic baskets. So you spend about €10. You pick out all the produce you want for your picnic basket, like wine, fresh cheese, beautiful baguettes, and you sit on the grass and you have it. It's like nothing else.
Yes, yes. So the restaurant and the bar scene in Hermanus, what can you expect and any local knowledge recommendations?
Well, I mean, the restaurants are just like exquisite. You know what I mean? I can't remember the actual name of it, but there's one cut in front of the Marine Hotel, cut right into the rocks. And it's a seafood restaurant. Now, they're also quite big for their Italian restaurants. If you can get a table in this restaurant, which is cut right into the rock overlooking the bay, it's just exquisite. I think it's worth remembering for anybody traveling from Ireland. It is the Southern Hemisphere, and their winters are summer and our summers their winter. It's really easy to forget and go during the summer, and our summer can be quite cold, even wet over there from about April on till about September, Kevin. I've been over there and it's rained. It's worth remembering that the best time to go is from September till maybe March for Irish travellers. During their summer, there's a fantastic bar feel. They're all right in the centre overlooking the bay. They're the open bars and everybody's hanging out of them, having their beers and stuff like that. It's a really good vibe and it's a very kind of surfy, young feel about it. That's
Yes.
during the summer, and then during the winter, it's older.
Yes, and down the road as well, they have, well, it's a controversial subject. I did it now. Maybe it's not environmentally acceptable anymore. They had the shark cage. You could go out and you were lowered in.
Diving.
Yes, they chum the water and these huge great whites. I came face to face with a 20-foot great white. It's an awesome sight. There is a little bit of controversy around that because it's interfering with the natural cycle, but everything around the water there, it really is a different world, and you've got the confluence of the two great oceans.
Yeah, you do. And actually, it is just so cold when you go swimming. And that's another thing to remember. The Atlantic is freezing. And just because it's scorching over there, it still is actually freezing. And I find it hard to get into the water, to be honest. But you're right about the shark cage diving. A friend of Johnny, my husband, he has a shark cave diving company. So we've been out before. Like as a day out, it's good value. You spend about €40. They pick you up. You can just stay in the boat if you want to. But a lot of the great whites are gone now, Kevin. They've been chased away. So you'd be lucky to see one at this point.
Wow, that's interesting to know. They've been chased away by just overfishing and activities and the seals.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's exactly it. What's interesting in Hermanus, the beaches are beautiful. So there's obviously Four Cliff Beach, which is the big surfing beach, but we usually go to a place called Grotto Beach. And Grotto Beach is where all the big, huge seals sit on the rocks. And Johnny always says they're the things that attract the sharks. So where you see big seals, you see sharks. But what's also interesting about Hermanus is I wouldn't worry too much about that because there are spotters on top of all the cliffs. There's people watching and spotting and monitoring the sharks. So if shark comes anywhere inside where the swimmers are, there's an alert and everybody knows about it. So not to scaremonger people, they do catch the sharks before they come in and tell people.
Yes, yes. What would be the shopping scene there in Hermanus?
Well, what I've noticed from a fashion point of view, they're very different to us. Irish people and Irish women, speaking for myself, we like to wear tan, we like to get dressed up. So, for the first few times when I used to go to Hermanus visiting the relations, I used to bring all my heels and good clothes. And sure, I was like a fool over there. So, as the time went on, I brought less clothes and less shoes because their whole aesthetic is understated, muted, and cool. And they wouldn't look at fake tan if it hit them in the face. You know what I mean? The shops are all very sustainable. They'd be very muted in terms of clothes shops anyway. There's a few different ranges. There'd be the Mr. Price at one end, which would be like the pennies, which I mentioned to you if you lose your bag. But there's also the higher end where it's all linen and cool fabrics and the colors are all very muted, no darks, no black colors. It's all kind of creams and beiges. Now, I'm generalizing. That was the first thing that struck me when I went to Hermanus first. It's very laid back. It's a holiday town. Everybody's in a holiday mode. But it's their interior shops that I like most. So they have got the most beautiful, shabby chic interior shops, and everything has a sort of harbor feel to it. And you could expect it in a seaside house. They're not expensive. So you could pick up some really lovely paintings or trinkets for your house or whatever and bring them back and they're not expensive. Like I don't know how many giant starfish dried I have that died naturally, of course.
Are there any hidden gems that you could alert our listeners to in the Hermanus region and the region around it? And would you hire a car if you were spending time there? And what would be the ideal length of time?
Yeah, I would definitely hire a car for the whole duration of my trip. I mean, hiring cars isn't too expensive over there, but I'd hire a car at the airport flying into Cape Town, and I would keep the car for the whole time. I think you need it. Hermanus, it's quite spread out. So it's not like you can just walk around and do everything. I would definitely, without a doubt, I would go in September when the whales are having their babies. And that's what I meant to say. The hotels are beautiful, but the guest houses are better in Hermanus, to be honest. I would probably stay in a guest house as opposed to a hotel, like the Birkenhead Hotel guest house. You've never seen anything like them, Kevin. But now they are pricey. You're looking at maybe 800 for 2 nights. So there's something for everyone there. And if you were staying in a guest house overlooking, say, Grotto Beach, you'd need a car. So ideally, I'd be staying in this fabulous guest house overlooking Grotto Beach, looking at the whales every morning. I'm a big outdoor person, so I would do a lot of hiking. It's fantastic for its hiking. There's a place called Fernclough Natural Reserve, and you have to drive to the reserves or get a bus. I'd say the public transport wouldn't be amazing. When we were there the first time, we were brought up to an eagle's nest. So you hike up a mountain, which is about half an hour. And we went right up with the baby on my back, which was a bit challenging, but we went right up to the edge of the eagle's nest, which was exquisite. We had a private tour guide helping us do that because it's not something you'd do yourself, Kevin. So I'd stay in one of the beautiful guest houses on the water. I would book in quite a lot of hiking. There's also a fabulous reservoir of Ferncliff Natural Reserve, which is in the center. So you can hike up the mountains and you can get to the edge of the reservoir and you can jump in. So I would do that as well. Something else I would also do is I would get into my car one of the days and I would go to the Big Cat Sanctuary. So about 20 minutes outside Hermanus, there's a big cat sanctuary. I'm a big animal lover and animal activist. It's a leopard and any kind of big cat reserve. I think it's about like €10 to get in. If you're the kind of person who wants to volunteer, they allow volunteers as well, you know? It's a good afternoon, Kevin. We went once and it's a reserve and all the animals have been rescued and rehomed and all the money, all the fees going in goes towards their welfare. So that's a lovely afternoon as well.
Tell me a bit about the experience of watching the whales. What actually do you see? And then the experience of meeting the big cats. And what do you see and feel there?
There's two ways to watch the whales. As I mentioned earlier, the mums come in to have their babies. So you see all these massive humps all the time coming in. Now, some years they have not come in, but they're back now. It's just the most magical experience, just seeing the water coming out, the sprays and the babies. I've never seen anything like that. You can also do boat tours that bring you nearby, obviously in a safe capacity. I'd advise that as well. Alternatively, you could just watch it from the harbour, you know.
Wow. And the big cats, what do you see when you go to the sanctuary?
When you go to the sanctuary, as I said to you, I think it's about €7 or €8. You need to drive, you need to have your hiking shoes on, and you need loads of sunblock. We made the mistake of all of the above. You need to also check what age children are allowed to go. When you walk in, it's all the different type of cats that have been rescued. So it's a good old hike now. They're kind of in large, I wouldn't say cages, but they're enclosed and all the different species are in the different ones. Each one has their own story, which I loved, Kevin. Each one has been rescued from various parts of South Africa. What I love about the whole ethos of the place is there's no pictures with the animals. There's no exploitation. I really, really hate when people come back from, say, Thailand and there's a picture of them standing with their arm around an elephant or with the monkey on their shoulder. This reserve is nothing like that. But as I said, you'd need your hiking shoes on. Each enclosure has a different story. They'll have the panthers, they'll have the lions, tigers. Yeah, it's very good. As I said, there's no jazz hands about it. It's not very commercial, but I would highly recommend it if you're an animal lover.
Of course, Hermanus is on the famous garden route, and it's what, a 2-hour drive from Cape Town, or roughly around that, isn't it?
Do you know what, Kevin? It's actually less than that. From Cape Town, it's only about 50 minutes,
Oh,
which is
wow.
good to know.
Yes.
Yeah, it's only 50 minutes. Before COVID, it was seen as a holiday destination for most people. But since COVID, there's an awful lot of settlers there. And actually, there's quite a lot of Irish settlers there. They call them swallows. They come over and they spend the Irish winter over there playing golf, and then they go back to lovely sunny Ireland.
What's worth exploring on wonderful garden route, which goes from Cape Town through Hermanus? How many days would you recommend in Hermanus before moving on to either go on safari or whatever your choice is?
Yeah.
What would you recommend?
Do you know what I would do? I would spend a few days in Hermanus. Johnny's family have a holiday house there. So when we go, we spend a lot of time in the holiday house. We're part of the local community. But I would imagine if you went on a holiday, I probably wouldn't spend more than 5 days there, to be honest. What I would do as well is I would definitely go on to a game park. But there's a lot of snobbery around the game parks, right? There's obviously Kruger, which is up by Johannesburg. It's near there. There's Shamwari, okay, which is another like 5-star. So a few years ago, we went to one called Aquila. I think if I were to recommend somewhere to go for Irish people, I would definitely go to Aquila. So Aquila it's a game park. It's about an hour from Cape Town. So it's kind of like a really good kept secret. I knew nothing about it because the South Africans themselves don't talk about it because they said there's a lot of snobbery to do with the game parks, Kevin. Now it's where the animals are rehomed. So it's a game park, but it's a lot of animals that were taken from other places and brought here. As I said, it's about an hour from Cape Town. It's about half an hour from Hermanus. So it's a brilliant location. We spent 2 nights there. There's gorgeous little lodges. There's also like apartments. So I'd recommend the lodges. It's substantially cheaper than the other game parks and it's near Cape Town. But I think it worked out about like 150 a night and that included our game passes. Whereas the other ones you could be paying up to 800 or 900 a night easily if you went. Now, if you're going on your honeymoon, I'm sure that's fine. But if you're going with your family, I would go to Aquila. And it was absolutely stunning. We went out twice a day with the rangers and they were like private tours. What I found quite hard was they brought us out and it's beautiful. You see all the different animals. But then we went to the rhinos and the hippos. And when you get to the hippos, they're literally ramming each other. And I was saying to the ranger, do you not get involved? And they were like, absolutely not. This is nature. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Yeah. So what I liked about the place is it really is a little slice of nature. They don't get involved, whatever is happening in the game park, which is hard when you're there, but, at least it's authentic. They also then brought us up to the lion enclosure as well. I don't know if you've ever done a safari, Kevin, and you've been alongside the lions. It's hard. It's scary. So what the rangers did, and we didn't expect this, they brought us into it's a massive plane, right? So they brought us into the plane. They switched the van thing off, right? And then we just sat there. And I was like, oh my God, are they going to come over and savage us? But obviously they didn't, you know what I mean? So we were right in the middle of the game park, right in the middle of the lions and tigers and stuff like that. I felt a bit, we're going to get savaged here, but obviously these are experts and they know what they're doing. Another amazing part of the game park was we went up to the giraffes, and the giraffes have their own area, obviously, their own planes. And they're so quirky, giraffes are. In the middle of absolutely nowhere, there are all these little plants growing. And the ranger said, see these little plants? And we were like, yeah, they're growing in the middle of nowhere. They said, yeah, what happens is the giraffes, when they've eaten all the eucalyptus, what they do is they plant their own. So they go get the seeds and they keep watering them themselves with their mouths until they grow. So
Right.
that's a quirky fact. Yeah, it was absolutely gorgeous. So I'd highly recommend it, Kevin. As I said, it's not far from the airport. You could go from the airport from Cape Town to Aquila and then from Aquila to Hermanus. As you were mentioning, it's a beautiful route. There's gorgeous little farm cafes and farm markets along the way. It's very picturesque.
Of course, you have the wine regions and you have so much to do. Well, listen, Debbie, it's absolutely fantastic. You've given us so much to digest there. And what we will do is we'll have a fact sheet, all of the places that you have mentioned. It's on the toptraveldestinations.com website. So if you want to follow up any of the suggestions and the destinations that Debbie has made, we will have them listed there. And thank you so much for giving us the most wonderful view of a country that you clearly love.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks a million for having me.